global village of conflicting ideologies and complexities, understanding systems and schemes through awareness and social reconstruction becomes expedient.
They never told you how you offended them?
I'm not on trial, so I can't go before.
Join the radio man, Edmond Obilo, on state affairs for local and international politics, security, extensive economic analysis, interviews, and world power play.
Nigerians must choose the path they want to follow. Follow the same looters and sponsors of violence who control the political structures or encourage the formation of a new leadership team.
Be a global citizen and join the radio revolution on State Affairs. State Affairs with Edmond Obilo. Radio just got deeper. State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is...
Hello. Welcome to another edition of State Affairs, coming from State Affairs Studio. I am Edmond Obilo, and I must say I'm happy to be back. Nigeria is in the eye of the storm. Not just President Bola Tinubu. Since last week, we've been on this subject. We are not done. But let's start on this note. States that have developed fought old traditions that limit development. Major political and social upheavals were launched to achieve reformation. In Europe, Protestants revolted against the religious authority of the Catholic Church, leading to the 30-year war fought from 1618 to 1648. The Peace of Westphalia of 1648 that resolved the war established the modern states of Europe. The treaty brought about the principle of sovereignty, the foundation of contemporary international politics, and it checked the role of the church in government. The 1688 Glorious Revolution in England was a battle against traditionalism. It led to the overthrow of King James II and brought about the Bill of Rights of 1689. The overthrow of King James led to the establishment of modern English parliamentary democracy, and the Bill of Rights took away the absolute powers of the British monarchy. The American Revolution of 1776 was a bold move to make America be for Americans. It removed the veil of traditional British ideals imposed on the American system. With the Declaration of Independence, the United States followed a modern path to development, launching market reforms, introducing new technology, balanced by continuous political reorganization. The political and economic revolution in the United States helped fuel the feelings of the masses of France when they, in 1787, stormed the Bastille in a bloody revolution. By this time, the monarchical establishment, led by King Louis XVI, resisted the abrogation of the feudal order that denied the poor access to land. The privileged class attempt to continue to dominate France came to an end with the revolution. King Louis and his wife Antoinette were later killed, leading to the Declaration of Rights of Man and of the Citizen. By the Declaration, sovereignty belongs to the people. What about the Industrial Revolution in Britain and Europe? These brought about the world of machines and modern weaponry. The point is that a society aiming at development must deliberately initiate change or accidentally take advantage of it. Nigeria does not necessarily have to follow the American and European paths. Japan and China followed their own paths. After the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki towards the end of World War II, Emperor Hirohito of Japan surrendered to the Allied forces on the 14th of August 1945. It was the beginning of the occupation of Japan by United States forces led by General Douglas MacArthur. Before then, Japan had not experienced occupation in its history. The occupation ended with the signing of the San Francisco Treaty of 1951. The point here is that the occupation of Japan transformed and gave Japan the opportunity to embark on radical political and economic reforms. By the 1980s, Japan had become the second most powerful economy in the world. The country had to drop its negative old ways to become an industrial power. Mind you, before the Second World War, Japan was already the biggest power in Asia at the time. Do not forget, Japan also colonized Korea. Japan launched a new political process, economic policies, and technological paradigm within a short period of 20 years. China, in its march to development, followed the communist path, but it was not a replica of the Soviet Union. After the communist forces defeated the nationalists in a civil war, Chairman Mao launched a social political movement known as the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. The goal was to preserve the communion and eliminate capitalist forces. It succeeded, but did not bring about large-scale economic prosperity to China. When Deng Xiaoping became the leader of China, he initiated reforms that launched China on the path of economic greatness. What about Nigeria? When will the time of Nigeria come? Welcome to the class of politics and power. Welcome to the class of analysis. Let's look at the issues of the time and let's examine them. Tade Ipadeola, it's good to have you on State Affairs.
Pleasure, Edmond, to be here again.
Yes. Tade Ipadeola is a poet. In 2013, his poetry collection, The Sahara Testament, won the prestigious Nigeria Prize for Literature. In 2009, Tade Ipadeola won the Delphic Laurel in poetry for his Yoruba poem, Songbird. Tade Ipadeola is a practicing lawyer. He graduated in law at the age of 21 from Obafemi Awolowo University. You are following the issues of the time.
Indeed, I am, Edmond. We are at a very, very, I would say, serious inflection point as a people. You have invited me to speak to some of the issues of the day, and the most important of which, I believe, is the educational history of our president.
Before we go into that, I just went down history lane, talking about America, talking about Japan. When will that kind of surge that would transform Nigeria come?
That's exactly what I'm observing. We are at that inflection point in our history. Remember that, like America, Nigeria is a plural society. Plural in the sense that we have over 300 ethnicities. We have a youth bulge that is more than half of the Nigerian population. They are as connected as the youth of any other continent in the world. So we've never really come to this kind of period in our history before, where you can no longer hide under misinformation, disinformation, or any such thing. We have a population that is aware of what is going on, that is able to track what is going on in real time. That's an ability that we never had as a people.
Does that population have a leadership?
That is a very interesting question, because you have to ask yourself, the way things have gone in the last 3-4 years, can we really say that it is acephalous? I don't think so. Because more and more what you tend to see, is that a critical mass is forming of the young people. And they are mostly headed in one direction. I understand the reason why people who have never seen this kind of move happen before, why they feel apprehensive. But we've seen this before in South Korea particularly, when they decided that they were going to be modern. And the young people, they left the university business for a while, trooped to the streets and said, we are no longer doing military rule, we are no longer doing autocracy, we want full democracy, and we want industrialization. And it took them about 5 years of consistently pressing, but they got it at the end. So we are at that point in our own history ourselves.
We have a political elite that controls the political system.
Indeed.
They have the key. You cannot enter except the open. And that entrenched political class have the money to decide who gets what. How do you take on them?
The elite in Nigeria, which we can really not describe as an elite, because it takes more than money to be the elite. It takes an awareness of how we stand in relation to the rest of the world. You could say that the people of Zeke's generation, the people of Awolowo's generation, the people of Sardana's generation were proper elite. Today, you can no longer say the same. When I was coming of age in secondary school, we had a governor in Oyo State, Chibola Ige. Chibola Ige was traveled. He was respected. I mean, this is a man who, together with Martin Luther King Jr. and people like that, decided on what kind of future the world was going to have. And he was listened to and respected because he actually had the stuff. I met him one-on-one. I know exactly what those men were made of.
He was a man of ideas.
He was a man of ideas. First and foremost, he was a man of ideas. And you could see, whether you were talking about the east of Nigeria or the north of Nigeria, it was the same story. How you will see it is in how they organized the civil service in the east, in the north, in the west. They organized it as men of intelligence. Today, that currency has been debased. You can no longer, you now have governors whose educational provenance is not known. You have a situation where the number one office in the land is being questioned. That kind of situation is exactly why young people all over the world, from Nigeria, young people who are acknowledged to be one of the brightest anywhere in the world, are beginning to question. And they are beginning to show that you really don't have to be in Aso Rock or Abuja or any state capital in order to determine how the population behaves.
Are you among those questioning the credentials of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Okay, so I'll put it this way. Let's proceed from the known to the unknown. In 1999, I was a member of the National Conscience Party, Chief Gani Fahimi's party. And we had left of the spectrum ideas, but we also had meritocracy. And I remember that Gani Fahimi challenged the credentials of the then governor of Lagos State, at that time Governor Ahmed Bola Tinubu. And it emerged that, as a matter of fact, there was no basis for saying that the governor at that time schooled his primary school at Aroloya, that he was a student at Government College Ibadan, and that he got a degree from University of Chicago as opposed to Chicago State University. Why I say that this is important is because so many years down the road, you can now see that in the materials, in the credentials that the president submitted, the primary school is missing, the secondary school is missing, University of Chicago is missing, which are documents submitted under oath in order for him to be governor. So the only document that we have is the Chicago State document, which is now the subject of dispute.
Why do you think primary school and secondary school credentials are missing?
That is a very important question. They are not the only things that are missing, by the way. It was shown that the primary school that the governor at that time claimed to have attended was not even in existence, as at the time he said he attended it. It was also established that the particular period of time he claimed to be at the Government College Ibadan, nobody in those sets knew him. And finally, it was shown that University of Chicago could not have had him as a student at that time. So
He said that was an error. He was not the one who filed his credentials.
that is
INEC.
that is a very, very interesting claim to make. He's an educated person. He's an intelligent person. He should know that anything that has his name on it, under oath, is a binding document. You cannot claim ignorance of the law at that level. I like to say that it's a strict provision of the law. You cannot claim somebody else did that on your behalf. At any rate, we are here now in 2023, and there is only one document. And to follow a particular pattern, we now know for a fact that the journalists in America who have gone into the archives of Chicago State University cannot find either the print or the digital version of the graduating class of 1979, which happens to be the graduating year of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You're talking about the yearbook.
Yearbook and the wall. In America, it is not just the book. It is not just the digital archives. There's a wall that has the name of everyone who's finished in any particular year. And let us look at the probability that there is every other year in the history of Chicago State University that you can verify and check, except 1979. It's a very Nigerian thing to do. It's a very Nigerian thing to happen. The question is whether those journalists in America, whether the Alumni Association of Chicago State University are going to sit idly by and not say, wait a minute, why don't we have the records for 1979?
As we unbundle some of these mysteries, let's listen to Peter Obi. Here we are looking at identity too. Peter Obi, in a press conference 2 days ago, perhaps was making some very heavy insinuations about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let's listen to him.
Respectfully and humbly call on him to immediately and personally mount the rostrum of his present high office to perform a simple task once and for all time. He should reintroduce himself to the nation he governs and to the world for avoidance of further doubt. He should let the world know his name, his nationality, his place of birth, his parentage, the primary and secondary school he attended with dates, as well as the actual universities he attended and certificates obtained. He should indicate clearly where and when he did his national youth service. In addition, if at any time he has had a change of name, he should state so clearly and circumstance that his name itself is no crime. This is a simple task that will take only a few minutes. It requires no affidavit, prolonged court process, spokesperson, agents or surrogates. The task is one that only Chief Bola Tinubu himself, through a direct personal statement, can perform. He must perform this task urgently in order to lay to rest once and for the last time the many lingering doubts and valid speculation about his true identity.
State Affairs with Edmond Below is live.
Peter Obi is asking Bola Tinubu to let us into his true identity. True identity. Is it that there's something he knows that we don't know?
Yoruba people will say or frame it like this. Èèyàn méjì kì í pàdánù irọ́. That means a respondent and a co-respondent cannot both be deceived at the same time. If the respondent is not aware that there is a lie, the co-respondent will know. As we are here, two of us cannot be deceived as to the truth or veracity of any issue. If I am lying, you may be deceived, you may not be deceived. But I, that am telling the lie, will know for sure whether I am lying or not. It is true that in some cases, some people are so far gone that they do not even know what is true and what is not anymore. But Peter Obi has put a very serious question to the president. People are worried that the question should not even have arisen at all in the first place. I think the question should not even have arisen in the first place. But we have a history that we have to go through. Bola Tinubu claimed that he was staff of Deloitte, a big five accounting firm worldwide. We now know that he was never a staff of Deloitte. In an interview that he granted PM News, or the news in those days.
What did he say?
He claimed that he was a staff of Deloitte, and that's how come he made so much money back in the day. But it has emerged that he actually never worked for Deloitte. He claimed at Chatham House that he now has, from the university itself, the copy of his certificate from Chicago State University. But Chicago State University, under deposition, before a court, and in America, a deposition is a very serious thing, said that they have never sent him either the original or the copy of the certificate. So who do we believe? When you have conflicting claims like that, you have to question whether the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth is out there in the public. And that is what Nigerians are facing.
Can the Supreme Court solve these questions?
Now, because the question is now formally before the Supreme Court, it's now sub judice. It is up to the Supreme Court. I cannot preempt. Nobody should preempt what the court will say. But the court has a duty to either consider this question of credentials or not. The problem that Nigeria will have is that if the court decides to consider the question of credentials, then we may have a constitutional crisis on our hands. But if the court decides that it is too late in the day, then we have something bigger than a constitutional crisis because every single Nigerian who is applying to work anywhere in the world will now be subject to extra scrutiny. It's already happening. They are already beginning to ask some professionals to come and actually prove that they have the credentials that they claim they have. It's already beginning to happen to nurses. It's beginning to happen to... When I qualified as a lawyer 31 years ago, you only wrote the last stage of the bar exams in Wales, Scotland, and the UK, in any Commonwealth country. Now, they make you write every stage.
Why?
Because they could no longer trust that what you say you have is what you have. When I was a young lawyer, you could just go to Wales or Scotland and write the final stage, and you're good. You qualified. Now you write every stage. They don't take your word for it anymore. That is the situation. When I was a young student in university, and they were taking doctors out of Nigeria, they were taking doctors into consultancy positions straight away, especially in the Gulf countries. This is a well-known fact. When the brain drain had just started happening in 86, 87. When some of my lecturers at IFE were leaving for Europe and America, they were going straight into universities such as Stanford, Cornell, Yale, Harvard, Ivy League institutions, because that was what we were. They did not even bother to check because the credentials were there. Today, they don't do that anymore.
We are depreciating.
Exactly. They no longer trust that we are who we say we are. Many people don't know that perhaps the second department of computer science in the world was established in Unilag by a Nigerian. The first was in Australia. The second was in Unilag. We were at the cutting edge of these sciences. We were at the cutting edge of the arts. When I was a student at IFE, we had Cameroonians, South Africans, we had Europeans, we had Americans come to study with us. I don't think that's the case anymore, because people believed that we were who we said we were. That's what I mean when I say that depending on how the court decides, we may either have a constitutional crisis or something bigger than a constitutional crisis.
When you say constitutional crisis, how do you mean?
Unfortunately, if we had done our homework correctly, if we had established, if the institutions of state had done their work correctly and thoroughly, The question of whether someone has credentials or not will not be arising at this point. But the institutions failed, so the questions are arising. Whether the document submitted in 2023 is a forgery or not is for, like I said, is for the Supreme Court to decide. But that the question has to arise at all is cause for concern by thinking Nigerians, because now it means that almost everything has to be questioned and nothing will ever be taken at face value again. Like I said, this is not just a malady that afflicts the presidency. There are governors in Nigeria whose educational credential is not established anywhere. And that is a cause for concern.
Let's listen to Peter Obi, Identity One. That is what I tagged it. Perhaps looking at the consequences of this ongoing argument about Tinubu's academic credentials.
Having followed a prolonged identity crisis that recently played out in the American court system and the controversy surrounding the authenticity of the Chicago State University credentials of Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I must confess I'm distressed as a Nigerian. In addition to the barrage of media frenzy that the matter has triggered at home and abroad, I have had the unwholesome burden of responding to embarrassing questions about the Nigerian overall credibility as a nation to privileged audience and individuals both at home and abroad in different parts of the world I've traveled recently. To the outsiders, the entire Chicago University matter, as well as Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu's many other lingering identity question marks, have further worsened Nigerian less than glorious image internationally. Uninformed outsiders now see every Nigerian as a fraudster, certificate forger, or identity thief. The controversy is unnecessary, just as the implicit global embarrassment could have been avoided. In my opinion, Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu should have saved the nation and himself this protracted embarrassment and undue anxiety. Even in this late in the day, however, Chief Ahmed Bola Tinubu still owes the nation and the world a simple debt of obligation only he can discharge.
State Affairs with Edmond Nubilo is live.
My guest, my guest is Tade Ipadeola, lawyer and poet. Tade Ipadeola is the author of this book, The Sahara Testament. He is the author of this work. Peter Obi is talking about Nigeria's image internationally, that this has worsened the image of the country. Talking about certificate forgery. I also hear of perjury. What is perjury?
Perjury at law is when a deponent, somebody who states something under oath, has put in something that he knows is a lie and expects that the court will take it as the truth. Remember that when a witness stands in the witness box in court, he swears or affirms that what he will say will be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Whether that is oral or written in an affidavit, if what is stated under oath proves to be false, then the person who made that claim has perjured.
Did Bill Clinton commit perjury?
Exactly. Remember that when the affair with Monica Lewinsky happened, Bill Clinton was impeached not because he had an affair with an intern. It was wrong. It was morally wrong for the president or the most powerful human being on earth to be having an affair with an intern. It was wrong morally. But he was not impeached because of that. He was impeached because he deposed under oath that he did not have anything to do with the lady. And it proved to be contrary down the road when proof emerged that, in fact, not only did he know the lady, he had an affair with the lady. That act of lying under oath is perjury, and that's what got Bill Clinton impeached.
Are we seeing that kind of situation in this ongoing argument about Tinubu's academic credentials?
Now, it is strange that Bola Tinubu claimed that he was top of his class, one of the most recruited, but he also said in his deposition in the court in America as the intervener that if Chicago State University should release his academic records to Atiku Abubakar, who brought the action in the United States, then he will suffer irreparable damage. It's not adding up. Something is not adding up. Because if you finish top of your class, if you are one of the best students in class, and you claim at the same time that your adversary having the records that proves that you are top of your class and one of the most recruited will damage your reputation irreparably. That is a very, very serious thing to claim. So we know something's not adding up there. By the way, when the depositions in the United States finally came forward, we had close to 200 pages of deposition and documents. And we now know that, as a matter of fact, the person who attended Chicago State University failed some courses which is required in order to get a degree. The question is, who failed? Who is yet to take those exams that are necessary in order to collect the degree from the university? Those are very serious questions.
Another question, why did the university print a diploma if that person had not graduated?
The university never printed a diploma.
But they said there's one in their possession.
See, they said under deposition that nobody came for that original.
Yes.
That is actually the question.
So if he had not graduated,
who owns that certificate?
Let's assume that the owner of that certificate is Tinubu. If he had not graduated, why did the university print?
No, the university will normally print for everyone. I mean, I am both a student and I actually teach in the American university system. They believe that if you have a certain track record and maybe you have 2 or 3 carryovers, you sit for those exams, you will get your certificate when you are finally, satisfied the college or school about your academic qualifications.
Let's look at this, okay. Mr. Tade Ipadeola. This is the interaction between Atiku's lawyer and the registrar.
The lady and the registrar.
The question, and so CSU, after going through every diploma, was unable to find an authentic copy of any diploma that CSU issued to Tinubu in 1979. Is that correct? The registrar answers, "We did not find any diploma issued by CSU in 1979 to Mr. Tinubu. Then the question follows, but you retained copies of some diplomas, but not others. Is that correct? The registrar answers, when we have a copy of the diploma, it is because a student didn't pick it up. A question comes again. And you don't have a copy of Mr. Tinubu's June 22nd, 1979 diploma or his June 27, 1979 diploma, correct? The registrar answers, we have the June 27, 1979 diploma. It is in our possession.
But not issued.
Not issued. So why do you think the owner of that diploma did not come to collect it?
Okay, so let me do a basic run-up about how the American system works to you.
Okay.
So everyone who is a student has what they call the Social Security number. And that's the primary identifier, even more than your name. The process through which you get the Social Security number is very strict. Everything about you is taken. Today, they take it at the Homeland Security Office. That is what your university or whoever is conferring any benefit, your employer uses first and foremost. I suspect, and this is in the realm of conjecture, that maybe those who say that the Social Security number on those transcripts belong to a woman are correct. This is a very, very unbecoming state of affairs, to say the least, because it ought not even to arise at this stage, whether this Social Security number belongs to A or B. And the question really has to be asked that between 1999, when Gani Fawemi challenged Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Lagos, and today, you mean to say all that time elapsed and no one actually took the trouble to go and collect a simple document? I find that very hard to believe. And why would I now, or anyone, go through a third party when the school has a lay-down procedure? Suppose the original certificate is lost, to go and collect that. And remember that there was another deposition by Bola Ahmed Tinubu that he actually had the documents, but during the June 12 crisis, his house was ransacked and his documents were taken away. What do we believe? Of all these different assertions, that is the situation.
You have also raised the question of identity theft.
Well, that is a matter that only the Americans with their FBI and IRS and whatnot can establish, because they are the only ones who know who the owner of that Social Security number on the transcript is.
Why didn't Atiku pursue that line?
Well, because Atiku's job is very simple. The Constitution of Nigeria, one, and the Electoral Act of Nigeria only say that a contestant, a candidate, will be disqualified if that contestant or candidate submits a forged document for INEC to consider. So far, Atiku has shown, with that deposition by Westberg under oath, that the university never issued any certificate. So the question arises, what then did Bola Ahmed Tinubu submit?
Let's listen to Bola Ahmed Tinubu at Chatham House in 2022 while he was answering questions from members of the audience. Let's go.
Thank you very much for the question. It's inquisitive about At the time of birth, I was dated March 29, 1952, and the family record. I didn't think then, that day, I've determined to be or decided to be a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Not even that I will go to politics. I've a very good exposure in life. My record is consistent. And the school and the university, they question. They now convinced that they wasted their money and their time. The record is there. The transcript is there. So in March 1952, I'm not claiming another father. I am Tinubu and Tinubu proper. If they want a DNA, they could as well require for one. One of them has been even accused of not being a Nigerian citizen. I didn't touch that area. Equally, it remains the same. Chicago State University, where I graduated, has attested to that. Now I can announce that I've received my original replacement degree certificate from them. The Deloitte trained me as an accounting firm. Mobile has attested to my record, a standing record. I got to the pinnacle of my career. And the private sector, who among them can brag about it?
State Affairs with Edmond Below is live.
The program is State Affairs, coming from State Affairs Studio in Ibadan. I can see Solomon Akbulonu watching. Prince Osato Osarene is also watching. Thank you for being here. Ogochuku Diamond Okeke, thank you for watching. And as you watch, you can also share so that we can take it to a larger audience. Akinshola Adeumi Peter, thank you for watching. Remember, you can always leave your comments here. Ishola Akim Adetoishe, Ishola, good to see you here. Ishola says it's good to be here. Yes, Ishola, thank you. I'm happy you're here. Ishola is one of the young politicians in your state. Osazua Uigwe, yes, thank you for joining the broadcast. We are talking about politics and power. And my guest is Tade Ipadeola. Amadi Lawson is watching from Munich. Wow. The phone number is pinned to this broadcast. You can call in to air your views. You can call in on WhatsApp. We are ready to receive your calls. Let's know what you think about the subject matter. This is the 6th edition of this program about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and we will follow it up to the Supreme Court. We will not rest on the subject. Omotayo Oluwarotimi Onobamiro, thank you for joining the discourse. He says, Edmund, even nobody should send money to people on WhatsApp and on Facebook or such media again. Okay? All right, I thought you were contributing to the subject. Anyway, I'll look at what you have just advised us on later. Let me see if we have more comments. I have this one from Ogechuku Aguike. He says, Nigeria will never get better till Nigeria will never get better. Okay, I can put that together. Just let us know what you think, and you can call in. The number is pinned to this broadcast. As I await your call, the book of the day is A Swamp Full of Dollars. That is the book of the day. A swamp full of dollars. Where is the swamp? Nigeria is the swamp, but it is full of dollars. It's a book written by Mike Peel. It's a good read. I recommend it to you. Peel's book is revealing. The book is richly detailed. It's a thoroughly researched book. What emerges in the pages of A Swamp Full of Dollars is one of the most penetrating, bracing accounts yet by a Nigerian or foreign observer of the paradox of Nigeria's woes. On the back page of the book, Ndibe writes that Chinua Achebe has famously accused Nigeria of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Ndibe says in a narrative filled with compelling characters, captivating episodes, and uncommon insights, Peel provides the devastating proof. He says the book is a chastening book, a triumph of reportage and analysis. Ndibe says the book is swamp full of dollars, deserves a wide readership in Nigeria and elsewhere. I have read the book and I think you should read the book. If you want to purchase a copy, you can get it in our online bookstore, udarabooks.com. udarabooks.com. You know, State Affairs is under the media company, Bificom Media and Systems. Udara Books is also under that company, Bificom Media and Systems. So Udara Books, State Affairs are one. And we run an online bookstore where you would find books on politics and power. We specialize mostly on books on politics and history. We have some books on poetry though. You'll find the works of Chinua Achebe in the store. All the fictional works of Chinua Achebe are on the store. You'll find more than 8 books written by Wole Soyinka on the store. So visit udarabooks.com for interesting works. I love this book. It talks about the Delta and the corruption there. Tade Ipadeola, what is the power of a book?
A book lives longer than us. A book is able to retain ideas longer than any man. A book is a knowledge-bearing object at the end of the day. A book is a time capsule of sorts, of ideas. That is why it is important. There is only one difference between the African, I'm sorry to say, and the rest of the world.
And what's that?
We don't rely on books the way others do. We don't produce books the way others. We produce only 6% of the total output year after year compared to others. It's a function of what our government thinks is important. It comes back to the subjects we are discussing. If people feel that you can just go to a printer and print a credential for yourself, why bother to read?
Well, why bother to read? If you are not going on the store, you can also buy the book on Udara Books WhatsApp number. The WhatsApp number is pinned to this broadcast. You can also buy it on WhatsApp. So this is the book of the day, a swamp full of dollars. Or you can buy it on State Affairs WhatsApp number. That is 080 999 18449. You can buy it on that WhatsApp number. The book is 4,000 naira. It says for 4,000. And it's quality work if you are interested in politics and power. I woke up this morning reading this book. It's a lecture delivered by Obafemi Awolowo at the University of Cape Coast. And it was in celebration of Kwame Nkrumah. It is entitled The Problems of Africa, the Need for Ideological Reappraisal. Mr. Ipadeola, this work is a classic.
Anything by Awolowo is a classic.
The problem and the solutions of Africa are here.
I agree.
And when he delivered this lecture long ago, you can imagine the brain, the intellectual capacity of Awolowo.
Awolowo, we forget, was not just a lawyer. Awolowo had a degree in economics, commerce, before he became a lawyer. But more than that, Awolowo surrounded himself with first-rate intelligence in people around him. Is it Aluko? Is it Bolaige? Name it. He had the best to advise him on any subject. Many people don't know that Nigeria had a space program under the Western Region government as far back as those days. Awolowo already saw with television that you needed to have a space program. So Awolowo was not one of the regulars. He was at least 100 years ahead of his time. And one day we will learn to go back to the fundamentals. What is it that Awolowo did not anticipate? Is it the farmer and herder crisis that he did not anticipate? Is it the protocols of elected officials versus traditional officials that he did not anticipate? Is it industrialization that he did not anticipate? Is it the power of Nigeria to become the center of production in Africa that he did not anticipate? He saw all these things. He laid the blueprint. But are we following up? Are we doing the things that need to be done? Or are we forging certificates?
Will it be fair to do a comparative analysis of Awolowo and Tinubu?
No, it's like Yoruba people will say, that's like comparing sleep and death. Tinubu is not in the league of Awolowo. Has never been. People mistake being able to clinch an office for magnitude of mind or depth of analysis or power of vision. What we are seeing is actually the unraveling of a man who has been promoted above his competence in the case of Tinubu. Whereas what we saw with Chief Awolowo was the actualization of the ideas of a man who knew what to do and who did it. Is it healthcare? Is it education? Is it the question of the dignity of man? Awolowo considered every little detail. I'm old enough to say that I saw Awolowo twice in my village. And once he came to settle a UPN crisis in my father's house. That was a great man. There is no equal. In 1983, the Nigerian terrain was in serious trouble. UPN was in trouble itself. And I was a child of 13. But where I was, my task was to serve whoever wanted to drink, whatever they wanted to drink. But I noticed that this man did exactly what Nelson Mandela recommended as true leadership. He listened to every last man that was in that meeting before he made a pronouncement. That was a man. There was no question. Those who surrounded him had more educational qualifications than Awolowo himself, but there was not one of them that did not call him my leader. And there was not one of them that did not take what Awolowo had to say as the final word on any question. That's the difference between what we have now and Awolowo that we had then.
As we round off this discourse, Bola Tinubu has asked the Supreme Court to dismiss the appeal filed by Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the PDP in the last presidential election. Tinubu describes the appeal as abusive in nature and prayed for its dismissal. He insists that the PDP presidential candidate and his party failed to prove all the allegations and submissions at the tribunal. Tinubu submits that the tribunal was correct in arriving at its verdict and affirming his election. What do you think?
I think the Supreme Court has its job cut out for it. It's a very onerous job. The judiciary in Nigeria has been on trial for a long time. This, by far, is the biggest test yet.
The biggest?
Yes, that the judiciary in Nigeria will have to face. I feel for them, because either way they rule on this matter, there will be consequences. And they need, therefore, to remind themselves that there is law involved, there is public opinion involved, there's morality involved, and there is the standing of Nigeria in the Committee of Nations involved.
You can call in. We are yet to get a call. Are they not calling? Okay. You can call. The number is on this post. Let's hear from you. The last broadcast, we had a lot of callers. This time, what has happened? It's still about Bola Tinubu's academic credentials. It's about the Supreme Court. Atiku Abubakar is in the Supreme Court. He has filed an appeal at the court seeking nullification of the judgment of the Presidential Election Petitions Court that upheld the declaration of President Tinubu as the winner of the 2023 polls. In the notice of appeal, Atiku argues on 35 grounds, insisting that the tribunal committed a grave error and miscarriage of justice in its findings and conclusions in its petitions challenging the INEC declaration of Tinubu as president. The notice of appeal is praying the apex court to set aside the whole findings and conclusions of the tribunal on the grounds that they did not represent the true picture of the grounds of the petition. Atiku maintains that the tribunal erred in law when it failed to nullify the presidential election held on the 25th of February 2023 on the grounds of non-compliance with the Electoral Act 2022, when by evidence before the tribunal, INEC conducted the election based on grave and gross misrepresentation, contrary to the principles of the Electoral Act. This reminds me of Mahmoud Yakubu telling us Nigeria on the processes that will lead to the declaration of results. You have a caller? Hello. Yes.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Yes, go ahead and make your point.
These are the new from Dada.
Make your point.
Well, this stability strata on the thing of Mr. Tinubu is becoming more embarrassing. Like, my point is that as the best speaker has said, either way that the Supreme Court is going to have increased their consequence. Either upholding that certificate scoring and become the norms of the day, that you don't see anything evil or anything contrary based on morality on ground. We are waiting. But they should know that whichever way they do, posterity will never forget them. That's my point. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you. Let's listen to Mahmoud Yakubu before the presidential election.
State Affairs with Edmond Below is live.
What the Commission is going to do in the event of glitches, particularly with regards to the real-time transmission of election results from the polling units. We anticipate two challenges. The first one is technical. The second one is malicious act. On the technical side, we have been working as a commission, our engineers have been working, but for several months we have been interfacing with the mobile network operators, the big four, the MTN of this world, the Glo, the Airtel, and the 9 Mobile. And we have gone so far in our relationship with them that in all the states of the Federation and at the National Situation Room here in Abuja, we are going to work with them. In fact, they are going to be embedded into our own situation room. So where there are technical issues, there is capacity, particularly from the mobile network operators, to respond to these challenges. On the possibility of malicious act, I said this severally, that any organization or institution that maintains web presence must anticipate some attempt for some compromise, either internally within the organization or by malicious act. But we have taken sufficient steps to fortify and protect our systems and processes. Unlike the Inspector General of Police, who is leaving certain things to himself, I must also say we are leaving certain things when it comes to cyber security of our assets to ourselves, because the walls have ears. But Nigerians should be rest assured that we are aware that our assets and cyber and resources may be susceptible to attack, but we have taken measures. After all, as I said yesterday, we have tremendous experience of having transmitted results in real time in elections in Nigeria, beginning from the Nasarawa Central State Constituency by election in August 2022 to the last governorship elections in July last year in Osun State. We successfully transmitted results for 105 constituencies nationwide. So please be rest assured that we are aware of the challenges and we have capacity within the Commission to respond to the challenges. After all, the Beavers is not an electronic voting machine. It will not operate online on election day. It is completely offline. Where we need a little bit of internet connectivity is where we transmit results from the polling units.
State Affairs with Unbundling is live.
Yes, Tade Ipadeola, you listened to INEC chairman there. That was in February this year. Perhaps he was preparing us for what happened in the election. He said INEC system is susceptible to attack, that we should expect glitches. So, and that's what we saw.
You see, I wonder what kind of education the INEC chairman has.
He has first class.
Well,
from Oxford.
It didn't show. The law, this electoral act under which this election was conducted, is different from preceding electoral act in one particular regard, and that is the real-time transmission of results. Now, as a lawyer, I know that other lawyers understand that when you have like 4-5 varieties of a particular law, there is something called the mischief rule when you want to interpret. And the mischief rule asks a question: what mischief is this law meant to cure? It has already been established that most of the mischief in Nigerian electoral system occurs between the field when they vote and the collation center. That was why that particular law was made that way, to say, as soon as we finish voting, the results will be transmitted electronically into the server of INEC. If a country now makes that law and devotes that amount of resources, over 300 billion naira, into the execution of that law, you don't talk about glitches. Banks don't talk about glitches that way, and they have by far more to do every day, day after day, than INEC.
Look at what the tribunal said in its judgment. The tribunal said that the Independent National Electoral Commission is at liberty to choose its method of transmitting results. It affirmed that INEC is independent and can therefore choose the method of transmission it deemed fit, saying no law mandates INEC to collate results electronically. Tribunal added that the failure to upload the photographic copies of polling unit results in real time did not invalidate the election. You will respond. We have a caller. Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Hello?
We can hear you. Make your point.
Hello?
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
We lost that.
Yes.
And so that's one of the more curious findings of that tribunal. Because the law that set up that election did not talk about collation. It talked about transmission. And it is a very specific provision. And the INEC chairman himself came out many times remember that there was a press conference in which the chairman came to address the question of whether or not they were ditching the requirement to transmit live. And he said, no, we are going to do this only for us to get to. I voted on that day. And I noticed that there was no glitch when the results of the House of Reps was being transmitted. There was no glitch when the results of the Senate election was being transmitted. The glitch occurred when it was time to transmit the results of the presidential results.
All right. Let's take this call. All right. Just keep trying. Once we pick your call, just know you are on. Go on and make your point, okay? Hello.
When it was time to transmit.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes. You are listening to us. That confuses you because there's delay. Okay, Ayo, give me the phone.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you? I can hear you. Make your point. Hello, make your point. You don't have to listen to, he's listening to the transmission. Just listen to me on the phone. Turn down the volume of what you are listening to.
Okay, I'm Emmanuel. I'm calling from London.
All right. Yes, Emmanuel, go on.
My point is that I was young when the 1979 and 1983 election was held. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Yes, so my comment, I think since 1979, we have never really had election in Nigeria. What we have been having is selection. You see, people at the top tends to blindfold and corrupt the mind of people that are voting or that are participating in election. If you remember, in 1979, it was this 12th of the dynasties that started the evil. Then imagine 1983. You remember, I was in Oyo State. I remember that night. I couldn't sleep. It was during the listing of the result. The figure that was collected at the election and the collected at each point was not what was declared. I remember that morning. I remember the gentleman that pronounced the result in 1983 was given a pencil to falsify the figure. My comment and contribution to this to let us know that until Nigeria begin to grow up, I don't know what legacy we are leaving behind for people that are following. Since then, I've stopped participating or getting interested. And look at this problem, the certificate saga. I don't know if we don't have leaders that are with morals that can't show the people that are coming. I don't really know what exactly are we going to leave to become coming generation. Because if it is now, then you are telling other people that can get away to be doing things. I'm not really impressed, but what can we do? We continue to pray for the country and pray God will give us leaders. Nigeria still has a long way to go. That's my simple contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. He called from Britain. As we round off this discourse, let me alert you that Peter Obi of the Labour Party has filed 51 grounds of appeal before the Supreme Court, seeking the nullification of the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court and the election of President Bola Tinubu. You know, we are all focusing on the certificate.
Yes.
What about if the Supreme Court says the appeal court was wrong in other aspects of the judgment, like Abuja 25%?
I'm a lawyer. I'm still practicing. I don't like to comment on what is already, because Atiku is already before the Supreme Court, Obi is already before the Supreme Court, Tinubu himself is already before the Supreme Court. So I want the elders in the room in the Supreme Court to really think very carefully about the kind of verdict they will issue. The reason is that we are at an inflection point. By that I mean that those who are listening to whatever they have to say are not just Nigerians. Foreigners, foreign investors are also listening. They want to know whether we have grown up, whether we truly are a country that is ready to go by the rule of law. If we have seen the kind of depreciation to the Nigerian economy that has happened in the last 100 days or so, then we know that we cannot afford to get it wrong. Many people thought it could not be worse than Buhari when he was there. See where we are today. In less than 100 days, nothing is certain. The Naira is like toilet paper. We cannot afford to get it wrong. And if everybody else gets it wrong, the Supreme Court cannot afford to get it wrong.
Is the Nigerian revolution possible?
Well, Nigeria is a very, very unique country. We don't do the usual, let's say, Russia, China, even Korea. There are many factors at play. And we do have elastic patience. It does not mean that people are not doing something to remedy the situation. I don't know of any family in Nigeria now that does not have one or two members abroad, because we have come to realize now that the economy is so bad that you need to, even if you don't have the money, you need to sponsor one member of your family to go and start working abroad so that he can send something back home. So we do have coping mechanism. The change that Nigerians require is already in motion. Because I'm now over 50 years of age, but I cannot recall a time in Nigeria that everybody, not just the young people or the old people, are very conscious about what is happening on the political scene. This is a new development.
And that platform of consciousness is the social media.
Exactly.
The Nigerian Broadcasting Commission has sent a bill to the National Assembly wanting to regulate social media.
They are illiterate. You see, if they understood what the state of technology is today, they will channel their energy to proper governance. The central bank will do what it ought to do. The police will do what it ought to do. The judiciary will do what it ought to do. All the organs of state will do what they... Because you cannot you cannot shut people up anymore. If when Buhari shut down Twitter, people already discovered that, no, there is another way through which you can get access. Trust me, between that time and today, more than 500,000 people have come of age, now own these machines called cell phones, and they can communicate, whether you want them to or not.
So the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission is on a fun ride.
See, they don't understand the state of the world today. Take the issue we have been discussing since morning. Even if all of the media organizations in Nigeria refuse to report on the certificate of the president, the issue is beyond Nigeria. You now have journalists all over the world, in Austria, in America, in Australia, in Ghana, in South Africa, engaging with the issue and amplifying. In fact, it just pays you as a leader anywhere in the world to do the right thing. Because before you know it, Nigeria is trending in Portugal and there's nothing you can do about it.
Wow. We have come to the end of the show. But let me make this point. There is a book I want you to read. Here is the book. You say it is a big book. From third word to first, the Singapore story, 1965 to the year 2000. It is the autobiography of Lee Kuan Yew. This book is like my Bible. You would always find this book by my bedside. So that is why I say it's like a Bible for those who like the Bible. In this book, Lee Kuan Yew talks about development. You will find this book on udarabooks.com, or you can contact Udara Books on 080 999 18449, and you have a number pinned on this broadcast. You can buy this book on WhatsApp. It's a scarce book, but we have about 4 copies left. You can get it. And if you are interested in politics and development, you should be reading this book. Let me tell you something. The book is about how an extraordinary personality took his country from poverty to posterity. Lee Kuan Yew, father of Singapore, is a lesson in prudent leadership. He led the emergence of a nation state by substituting resources with discipline, ingenuity, and superior intelligence. Lee Kuan Yew installed first world infrastructure for Singapore, a country with no natural resources, no or little natural resources, and turned it to a global trade center and a beacon of posterity. In the book, he says, we cannot afford to forget that public order, personal security, economic and social progress, and prosperity are not the natural order of things, that they depend on ceaseless effort and attention from an honest and effective government that the people must elect. I recommend the book to you. Tade Ipadeola, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you, Edmond. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you for enriching my knowledge.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, that is Tade Ipadeola there. In 2013, his poetry collection, The Sahara Testament, won the prestigious Nigeria Prize for Literature. In 2009, he won the Delphic Laurel in poetry. He is a practicing lawyer. Next week is another time from this studio. But don't forget to join me tomorrow on Splash FM from 8 to 11 a.m. So tomorrow I will be on Splash, not from State Affairs Studio. Tomorrow will be from Splash FM Studio, but the program is still State Affairs. I am Edmond Obilo. I worked with my guys, Ayo Ashimolo and Samuel Kalu. Together, we brought you this broadcast. Thank you for always being there. I am Edmond Obilo.
In the global village of conflicting ideologies and complexities, understanding systems and schemes through awareness and social reconstruction becomes expedient.